My apologies for the online participants. Now I have to share my screen again. Now you should be able to hear me and see me. Okay, and this is for the online participants. There is a Q&A button on Zoom. In case you have any questions during the presentation or during the panel discussions, or you want to be part of the discussion, please feel free to post your questions. And our colleagues will be noticing your questions and eventually address them during the Q&A. About the EU SME Center, we are a European Union funded initiative that provides comprehensive range of hands-on support to European small and medium-sized enterprises, getting them ready to do business in China. The center team of experts, we provide advice and support in almost all sectors concerning European export to China, but also mainly covering major aspects, includes business development, includes legal issues, standards and conformity, and also human resources, collaborating also with external experts worldwide. We are very fortunate today to have one of them with us, which I will introduce later. At the center, we also convert valuable knowledge and experience into practical business tools and services which are easily accessible online on our website. About the cooperation we have with China-Europe Water Platform, which is a business program that focuses on contribute to creation of a well-functioning market, delivering solutions that enables governments to targets to be achieved. The CWP EUSME seminars that we have been organizing in this year from March to May. During these 4 seminars, we are happy to announce that all 4 webinars have been followed by over 300 participants from about 20 European countries, and also with the participants from China. Our past webinars covered mainly these 4 aspects, as you can see on the screen that I shared. It includes blue-green spawn cities, includes the efficiency of water infrastructure, digitalization in the water sector, and eventually we also discussed a very trendy topic, carbon footprints of the water sector, which all these discussions eventually are leading to our discussion of today on 2 potential solutions of urban water management, which is digitalization and circular economy. With this session, we'll be focusing on the first one, on digitalization in the water sector. From the past 4 webinars that we organized this year in 2021, we would like to first here take this occasion to present to everyone some observations from the speakers and the chairs and from the discussions we have organized, but also eventually to have some recommendations that we summarize from the seminars we organized. To start with, as listed here on the screen, we have noticed that digitalization in the water sector has definitely a big potential. And as a matter of fact, digital water technology has already largely been available for the sector. The sector is already using it and benefiting from the whole digital transformation. And second, digitalization has entered all subsectors of the water sector as well, from water quality, from wastewater treatment, to leak detection, flood management. It has entered all subsectors of the water sector in Europe and also in China. And digitalization technology is fast developing also at all stages. From water management in the water management cycle, from monitoring to metering systems to data collection systems, and eventually also other intelligent information systems. From one of the webinars, we also noticed that the availability of sensors for real-time monitoring can bring a lot of value for the sector. And at the same time, digital solutions may also reduce the impact of the existing silos among institutions that are involved in urban water management, which sometimes could potentially be barriers for efficient solutions. Of particular importance is the connection of these silos for water supply, wastewater treatment, and the integration among all the decision makers. And last but not the least, the procurement of digital water solutions may not well be specified in the tender. So these are the observations we have made from the past 4 webinars. Accordingly, based on the observations, we have also made the following recommendations. First of all, digitalization has clearly shown its potential to increase efficiencies, to support identification of solutions to urban water cycle management challenges. To start with, the regulatory framework can promote water sector data collected and make them available, if possible, at a free of charge basis to the sector stakeholders. And on economic incentives, digitalization can reduce the cost for operations and increase the efficiency of the management organizations. If this has been done well, companies, organizations could potentially expect short-term return on investments. And the monitoring and sensor visibility, as I have already mentioned, this could potentially mean a lot with the increasing number of sensors that enables a move towards real-time management of the urban water management cycle. And again, on data management, integration, access of information, and eventually on a much clearer description of procurements of digital water solutions. These are the observations and recommendations we have made and concluded from the past 4 webinars that we have organized together with all the stakeholders. And without further ado, after my presentation of the observations and recommendations and findings, we would also like to test or have some evidence of proof from market experts who are already in the very complicated China markets. Today, we have the honor to have Mr. Guillaume Guimonet from Civeco, China. Civeco is a French SME founded in France, but has already entered the China markets since 2004 and have worked with more than 1,000 clients in China. And Mr. Guimonet is the director of operations at Civeco in China, who will share more of his insights on operations and management systems in the digitalization in the Chinese water markets. Later on, we'll also have Mr. Jason Jeff from Kruger, that will be able to share with us a smart water system called Upgrade, and two successful cases of how the system is being utilized. Without further ado, I give the floor to Guillaume, and thank you very much for your attention. Guillaume, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's okay, yeah. I hope everyone can hear me well. I hope it's okay also for the online attendees. We try to stick to be not too far from the mic, so everyone can listen with the same quality. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk at this event at the EUSME CWP webinar series. We are very pleased to be with you this afternoon and to talk about the topic we have been involved in since 15 years now. Since one of my first project was at the Skip Sino-French so here in Shanghai for the freshwater and wastewater treatment there. So just a few words about who we are, so you understand our perspective and our background on the question. We have been pioneering the concept of smart O&M here in China since all these years, and we have been lucky to work with some very big names in the environment and infrastructure market. And so you can recognize some of them, Shouchuang, Zhongshan Hongyong, and Hongshan Huiwu, for example, Beijing Enterprise as well. So today I will pick two examples, one from Beijing Capital and one from Zhongshan Utilities. Maybe a few words about what we consider as a smart O&M. Essentially, and I will leverage one of the points you just made, Liam. The solution is to break silos in the water organization, and with the idea that breaking these silos unlock higher performance, better compliance, and increase the capacity to deliver safe and affordable water in a population, urban population that is growing here, still growing. So that means digitalizing along the lines of asset management, risk management, operation management, maintenance management, and service. So these lines are really cutting across silos. And what is important to be successful in digitalizing this way is that it must be grounded and aligned with international standard and best practice. And one of the main standard we are following on this is standard ISO 55000, which is asset management ISO standards. And luckily, and what is very interesting is China played a big role in writing this international standard. So we can see how practices and technology are converging into this goal of breaking silos to unlock capabilities in water organization. On the technology side, we are leveraging technologies such as web platform, but increasingly, and especially in the water industry, which is geographically quite dispersed at some time, mobility plays a key role, same as GIS, and as we mentioned, now more and more smart meter, IoT, that give, let's say, a second use to SCADA system, for example. So the idea is to see how these systems interact and to make them, to orchestrate the way they interact to help the whole water organization to perform better. Because what we saw, our observation of, let's say, the first wave of digitalization that we saw here in China, the application that have been mostly talked about were very much customer facing. these applications, and we see it now every day, that the ability to pay online, to report problem online directly by citizens from the city. So this has been a big focus here. Also, not mentioned here, there has been a big focus on business process. China has informatized very early on the ERP side in the water organization, ERP and accounting system. We saw also some very visual application. We see like monitoring sensor with extremely advanced dashboard that are leveraging data and structuring this data and for a display that is very impactful. So that has been a very positive first step with digitalization here. And that gave strong awareness to many stakeholders in the water ecosystem. I would argue though that, and that helped to build also the skills that are necessary to capture the value from digitalization in water. But this did not cover an important topic. It didn't change profoundly the business model and the operating model of the companies. And that's in our belief that's where there is still an untapped opportunities for water companies. This changing the way the companies operate would enable to reach their key environmental and societal and business goals. This is not how to say, not new. Actually, this realization has been done by Chinese company for quite a long time now. This is a survey we ran in 2017, and this was Chinese company, mostly water company, responding to that survey. So they identified already at the time that a topic like maintenance must be understood as a risk management challenge. So something that is cutting across silos and taking the big picture. And that digitalization could address key methodological gaps that are met on site. So based on this, I think we could say that operation and maintenance is an untapped opportunity for digitalization right now in China. And we heard from some McKinsey expert at the conference last week, actually, that there was this word around that only 50% of the adoption target in O&M for digitalization in O&M has been reached. So there is much room to go for a better adoption of digital tool in O&M for the water industry. However, this is challenging because this is not just about putting the smart meter and running them. There will be what to do with this information that we get, with this data that we get from the smart meter. How do we change the way we operate and react to that in the view, in the light of the business objective? Well, there are some industry shaping trends that help and push for a change in the way that is operating. For us, really the big one is the increasing regulatory pressure on the operator on the market. And this leads, in turn, this has been quite well orchestrated at the highest level through an increasing consolidation that come in pair with increasing accountability. So there is a new regulatory pressure, and also the actors are created to be able to sustain this pressure and develop the operation model nationwide and actually beyond. But this comes with challenging, of course, especially large scale. Immediately we are operating at the nation scale, and of course fast growth. And now I would say on the top of it recently, quality growth. And this has been embodied by the role of these large operators from just a financing role, they were just here to buy and consolidate assets, into an operating role that comes from the accountability. Now they are responsible for how the assets are used, what is delivered to the users in the city. This is the big change. Hopefully, we have some very efficient mechanism here, especially that top-down decision can be done very fast. And there are funds available for digitalization. So these trends will help to overcome the challenge we just saw that comes with the digitalization of operation and maintenance. And it goes beyond the Chinese water market. We have, through this regeneration of the operating model, we see also the agenda to project these best practices outside of China as well. And for me, this is linked with the role in ISO 55000 standard, for example. So now let's talk about real case. This is so Yuyao, it's not very far, it's in Zhejiang. Typically, this is really an example of what I just presented in terms of trends, because Capital Water, which is a Beijing company, state-owned enterprise, a municipal company from Beijing, that was tasked to acquire mostly medium and large water operation all over China. And recently, at the beginning again, just financing, just buying these assets. And in 2000, I think it was in 2017, they come to us and they say, now we are building this operation structure and at the top level. And we need to define what we want to do for asset management. We need to define together what we need to do for operation management. And the challenge is we need to apply this to all our operation fast, and we need to ensure that implementation is actually effective for assets that we didn't build, but we have to operate, and people that we manage, but we didn't hire. So there is a strong need to define an operating model and to deploy it. And here, digitalization is a key tool, because the digital systems will give the opportunity to push for good practices in a natural and structured way. And here you see some examples of what has been done. This has been started actually with defining their operating model based on ISO 55000 together with them. We built this around 5 steps, which was to define the maintenance strategy, to increase the knowledge on the assets, to prepare and plan, so to define the maintenance plan in a structured way, to focus on execution and reporting, and to create analysis capability. We digitalize around these 5 dimensions. In practice, that meant that this digital solution were used to perform the inspections, scanning the assets based on inspection rules to prove the compliance of the operation on the water site, on the water plants. And the information became available in the centralized platform in a structured way. And the structuring principle were the same for the different water sites, which enabled interoperability and benchmark between sites and a consistency of operation across all the different sites of Capital Water here. What happened next? So the management system has been defined, has been applied in Yuyao now. We are talking with other water plants of Capital Water for deployment. And now what is very interesting is the same management principles are being adopted with a different BU. The environment BU here in Yangzhou, the environment side, so waste management and waste treatment. The second example I will share with you today is the example of Junction Water. So Junction Water is in charge of serving the 3.5 million inhabitants of Junction for water. We joined the project in 2017, where they were looking for a system to manage the quality of the water in their water plant first. So we started as the same driver, the regulatory compliance driver. We often hear that digitalization is here to cut costs and to improve performance. That's true, but I would say not that's not the starting driver. It starts, for me, it starts more with regulatory compliance, structuring the operation to meet these targets, and then it leads to economic performance as a second step. The solution is, so this is the same platform that has been used also, that is currently being used with Junction Water, and where the project enabled to redefine the inspection route, use the mobile for the technician to document what's happening on site, and share with a centralized platform where the actual condition of the equipment of the meter can be captured. So this is very helpful in a situation where smart meters are being enrolled but cannot be enrolled at once. And this complements well because some aspect can be taken care of by the smart meter or by smart IoT equipment, and some other must be done by a human technician that needs, for example, to intervene and to repair. Because these smart meters become assets themselves that needs to be repaired, managed, maintained, and replaced. What is very interesting is that then this, again, it comes to another BU, a closer one this time, the secondary water network. So we started from the water plant, and then the same system has been, and the same management principle revolving around asset management, risk management, maintenance plan, and operation has been adopted by the secondary water supply. And this created the data that could be used later in a project with Shanghai University and EUSME, which is a collaboration between French Engineering School and Shanghai University, to leverage this data to optimize the usage of the resources for inspection and repair of the pumping station all around the town. By analyzing different sources of data, so the operation data from the system, but also city data coming from roads, traffic, and so on, they have been able to recognize that the work as currently defined could be done in 18 in terms of 10 things if the pumping station were reallocated in a different way. You could do this for workload, you could also do this for carbon footprints also, right? Because there is a direct connection with how the team are moving around. So with this, what is very interesting with this platform is we started as a way to manage, to increase compliance, and then here we are reaching economic performance by leveraging the same tool and going further. So we are about to reach the time limit. So I will conclude in 2 slides. One, a little bit on being more specific on the challenge of adopting digital solutions. It has to be understood as the way to share knowledge between the different sites, which is where the water industry have a big potential for gain here, because most of the operations are shared with different sites that sometimes have very difficult time to coordinate. By providing a platform that is structured around clear principle, the ISO 55000 principle, we give them the opportunity to share this information, not just to collect it, but to share it and to use it for execution and improvement. And another point is that continuous improvement is key. The idea to have one big platform to manage everything and to improve everything in one time is a dream. That just doesn't work. We have to start very practical. We have to start, as we saw in the example of Junction Water. The goal at the beginning was not to define an algorithm to manage the entire city. The goal at the beginning was to define and ensure the compliance of inspection, and especially water quality inspection. And then the opportunity has been made to build on that and to reach higher grounds. With this, interestingly, this is based on our customer base here in China, that the adoption of smart solutions. So smart solution for us means not just a traditional system, but something, an usage connected with mobility, with IoT, with BIM, with GIS, or one of them, or all of them combined, all the better. This is gradual, but this is a strong trend. Now we have more than 80% of our customers that is using at least one smart aspect. So it's really to illustrate that it doesn't need to go too fast, but need to be very, very progressive on this adoption with a good pace. And the final one is that, yes, this is not just about China. It's actually building the right methodology and tool to serve the operation in the water operation on a global scale. And we see this increasing interaction between mobile app, BIM, and SCADA. As you see, this is one of our most recent projects that we announced just yesterday with Organica Water. Organica Water is a European company that has operation around the world and is now using a platform developed in China for its operation in India. So that's the good practice that are developed here and implemented here in China can be leveraged for any kind of companies on the global stage. And as long as the starting point, we believe, for the successful digitalization is to rely on the principle of international standards such as ISO 55000. Thank you very much. I think I will be available for questions later. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Guillaume. Very interesting insights that you have shared, and we already actually have some questions for you that we will pose to you later on during the Q&A and panel discussion, especially on ISO 55000. And let's give the floor now to our next speaker, Matthias Zubimendi from the China IPsme Helpdesk, who will share with us his insights on intellectual property protection in digitalization and digital technologies. The floor is yours, Matthias.
Thank you. Continue. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the presentation of the China IPsme Helpdesk. And today we will introduce what we do at the Helpdesk, and I will explain a little bit about how to protect IP for digitalization in the water solution sector. But first, let me introduce who we are. We are the China IPsme Helpdesk. We provide assistance to EU and cross region companies, SMEs, that want to do business in China, that want to enter the market, or just doing business from abroad. We provide all our services for free. We have an inquiry helpline. We also provide trainings with workshops, webinars. We have material available on our website, such as guides that can explain step by step how to protect IP. And we also have some functions that companies can check. But let's start about intellectual property. Why it is important to protect IP in general and for the water sector. IP basically what provides to companies, it's a monopoly. They provide exclusivity right over certain specific acts. For example, companies will be able to sell, import, export, manufacture, or advertise certain products if they are registered, if they are protected. For understanding IP and for understanding how IP works globally, we have to understand a very important principle which is called territoriality. The territorial principle says that IP will only be protected if the registration is done with the local authority of the country. This is that the IP we have registered in China will only grant protection within the territory of China, but not in the EU. The same way what an EU company may have protected in the EU will not grant any protection here in China. That is very important for those companies that are looking forward to enter the market, because no matter what they have at the EU, will not grant protection here. They need to start the registration before entering the market, otherwise it may be too late. But how to protect IP, or what IP is involving the digital water solution work. There are several products or several aspects that I consider more relevant, and I highlight here in the presentation, that are protected in different ways. Companies that collect information and they use this information for more complex processes, for example, for artificial intelligence, what they are producing are databases. Databases in China, they are protected by copyright. For having copyright protection of a database, you have to comply with the main relevant requirement, which is originality. Originality means in copyright that the database has to be collected in a certain specific way, that only the company has this information, that some effort was done, and it has some unique characteristics that allows to be differentiated what can exist somewhere else in the market. For final products, it means for what companies are offering as a service or as a final product. There are several ways to protect it. There are different types of IP that they should be taken into account. We have invention patents, which are normally the most common and most well-known type of IP that is used by companies. But here in China, we also have utility models, which are, in my opinion, much more relevant in the sense of they can protect the same type of protection for a shorter period of time, is true, but way faster, because the registration time for obtaining a utility model in comparison with an invention patent is way shorter. Also, different types of IP, we have design patents, we have trademarks that protects, in the case of design patents, the aesthetic aspects of the product, and in the case of trademarks, the company name or the product name. For those companies that they have much more complex processes, companies should understand that invention patents, they also protect those processes as a whole. This is that if a company has an industrial process that involves the usage, the management of water much more efficiently than what it already exists in the market, then this can be protected as an invention patent. Finally, for those companies that use, for example, software or artificial intelligence, and they came up with a new algorithm, a new way of analyzing information, then we have to understand software protection. Software in China, it is protected by copyright. There are in certain specific cases in which the software, it is connected with the software, and the combination of both elements are used to solve the problem that the patent is trying to solve. Then in these cases, this more complex process can be protected by invention patent. But in general, software is protected by software. For those companies that sadly are facing copycats and they are already struggling with IP infringement, some tips that I can provide. My first tip, of course, is going to be get a lawyer as soon as possible. It's very important because the lawyer is the one that will know how to collect evidence, which is the most relevant aspect before trying any action. Collecting evidence, it's, in my opinion, the most difficult part for SMEs to understand, and the importance of it. Companies can hire private investigators, they should hire notaries, and get proof of what is actually happening in real life. And in the case of infractions that are happening online, nowadays it's possible to use blockchain as a way of obtaining digital evidence. Finally, one last recommendation is to choose the proper recommendation, the proper jurisdiction before trying any action. In the case of China, we have to know that we have the internal courts for online infringement cases, but also now we have the IP specialized courts, which are for more complex cases, in my opinion, much more convenient, especially for those cases that involve the use of patents. Finally, if any SME has any inquiry or they want to discuss with us the potential strategy, IP protection strategy, please don't hesitate to contact us. We have this helpline that is very fast, confidential, and we normally reply within 3 working days. Here you can see our email on the screen. All our services are for free. At the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Matthias. Indeed, like Matthias has mentioned, for many companies in the smart water management sector, it is important to have your intellectual property protected well. And for companies who are interested in discover further, to learn more or have questions for Matthias, Matthias's contacts will be shared after the webinar, and you're welcome to be in touch with IPsme Helpdesk. Coming next, we have one Danish company, Kluger, which is a Veolia company focusing on sharing best practices on environmental protection technologies. We have Jason Jie representing Kluger, who is going to share with us the recently developed upgrade smart water system and 2 successful cases to be shared. Jason, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. It's my pleasure here to introduce the company's smart water systems upgrade performance to you, and maybe have some opportunity to work together with you in the future. So for my introduction on the upgrade, so I split it includes 3 sections. The first one, the brief introduction for the Kluger and the Veolia. And the second one is how about the upgrade the smart water systems. Then the third one, two cases of the 2 successful reference for the upgrade performance systems. Okay, so what is the Kluger and the Veolia? Kluger, first, Kluger is a Danish company, is a middle-sized company, and also she is a daughter company of the Veolia group. So in China's market, Kluger already involved in many projects for the many years. So today, here in mainland in China, the Kluger and the Veolia work together tightly to want to do some contribution for Chinese environmental protection. And so for this, we will introduce the upgrade performance systems developed by Kluger and the Veolia together. So, this is the upgrade performance systems. Upgrade performance systems, the scheme is like this. First, we must rely on the local PLC and SCADA systems. So, use the OPC agreement. We informed or transformed the data and the information from the local SCADA and the PLC to the upgrade performance systems. Upgrade performance systems is on the cloud. Is a cloud-based software. So between the local PLC and SCADA systems, and also the upgraded performance systems can do the real-time control for our wastewater treatment or the wastewater treatment systems. So this means for the upgraded performance systems can calculate your wastewater treatment plant or the wastewater treatment systems every 2 or 3 minutes, and then to set the optimized setting point, and then send the information and the control information to the local start and the PLC, and then the PLC will control the process equivalent to do the right thing. So this means the hub-grade performance is a real-time control, smart water systems, and also the real based on the cloud calculation and all those things. So for the hub-grade performance, we already Mosaic system or Glucius. So it will cover for the industry sewage treatment and also for the municipal wastewater treatment. So for the wastewater treatment, it is a full cycle calculation and the software. So this means it can control the pre-treatment, tertiary treatment, biosolids treatment, and for the aeration tank systems, and also including for the sludge treatment systems. So this is the total and holistic systems. So the summary, if we use the hub-grade performance systems, the advantages for our client, for you, will be the 8 issues. The first one, these smart water systems can improve water quality and also reduce the chemical toxicity, and also improve or increase biological treatment capacity, and also for the energy saving, and also can increase hydraulic capacity and flexible for the sewers. And also, if we combine the upgraded performance systems with the local from the weather forecast systems, so we can treat the storm drain very well. So the last one, if for your wastewater treatment, if you have some sludge digestion, so our smart water systems can improve the biogas production. So I need to introduce the 2 references for the upgrade performance systems. So can the 2 successful references can demonstrate the advantages by the upgrade performance. Generally speaking, so far, we already developed these smart water systems more than 25 years. So far, we already installed more than 80 references in the world. So totally operating time is about 800 years. So the smart water systems is very experienced and mature. The first case is for the Israeli country is a very small waste plant. So for the capacity is just about 300,000 PE. So if we calculate by the Chinese solution, this capacity is about 60,000 cubic meter per day. For this project, they are used. This is the existing plant, so we use the upgrade system in the plant. So the challenges for this plant, for the existing plant, the plant above the maximum load capacity. This means for the actual inlet flow is more than the original design capacity. So the second challenge is evident about the demands for the total nitrate TM, and also from the sludge escape for the secondary reservoir during the storm water. So after we install the upgrade performance systems, so for the treated water quality, can lead the local government or the environment authority department very well, and also can increase about the 80% for the aeration energy, but we reduce about 41% for the mixing energy consumption, and also reduced 34 reduction of the energy for the nitrogen recyclation, and also reduced about the 85 for the external carbon addition. So this means we reduce the chemical consumption. So from the plant manager, the evaluation for our upgraded performance system, they're saying, yeah, these systems help them very much to improve the treated water quality and also reduce the energy consumption. The second one, the plant is the Mosaic in Italy. The capacity is 1.5 million PE. So this plant is a large or big plant in Italy. So for the existing plant, there are also facing some challenges. The first one, there must be improved the large biological variation. So this means for the wastewater plant, the network should be CSO sewage network. So the biological loading will be changed very big during the storm or during between the storm rain seasons and also the drying season. So the second challenge, we increase the hydraulic capacity of the biological process, and they are also needed to save some OPEX, and also need a stable operation and less manual adjustment. So we use the upgraded performance system into this project. So the compliant element, so we reduced about 50% PM in the treated water quality, and also we reduced about the 9% for the total fluorus for the treated water quality. So for the biological enrichment tank, we reduce about 25 energy consumption, and also reduced about 80% for the chemical for the precipitation of the phosphorus. Anyway, everything normal for 1 year, we can save about 630,000 euro for the OPEX every year. So this is some detailed information for this project. If you are interested, you can take some pictures. Anyway, for this project, it is a very successful reference for the upgraded systems. For the plant managing and for the water group CU, they are very satisfied with our systems, smart systems. So this is the other information for this plant. Yeah, sorry for the color. The color is dark, so this is clear. Anyway, they reduce the OPEX, reduce the chemical sludge production, and they increase the hydraulic capacity and the stable operation. This all the advantages is very good for the plant operator. So when we introduce the upgrade performance systems into Chinese market, how about the application? So for these smart water systems, there can service for the new product. So this means for a new product, for a new wastewater treatment plant, at the beginning, we use the upgraded performance systems and cooperate with the local DI together. So this means for the same treatment capacity, we just need to design a smaller wastewater plant. So this means we can save much the CapEx investment. On the other hand, if we use these smart water systems for the existing plant, we can also reduce the CapEx. For example, the existing plant, the capacity is about 100,000 cubic meter per day, but now the client want to increase the capacity more, about the 20,000 cubic meter per day. As the ordinary solution, we must build a new line treatment. But if we use the upgraded systems, maybe we just keep the same, the concrete volume, and need to do some new machine, new equipment, and change some instrument. So we don't need build a new line. So this means we don't sell, we don't need to put much money for a new line. So anyway, for the Chinese budget, for the Chinese client, if we use the upgraded performance systems, we can reduce the operating cost and increase the biological treatment, and also increase for the hydraulic load, and also can collect more storm drain. So this means there is less a little overflow for your city, for your treatment systems. So this is the general advantages for the upgraded performance systems. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, this is my presentation.
Thank you, Jason. We are now going to invite all the speakers back on stage for rounds of questions and panel discussion. I already noticed that we have quite some questions already posted. So please, Guillaume, Matthias, and Jason, if you can come back to the stage and take a seat. I would, yes, thank you. Yes. Yes, and please hold speakers in your hand when you speak. I will start with questions from the audience, from our participants. Question number 1 is posted to Simeco, to Guillaume. The question is, do you have an estimate of which percentage of relevant tenders which are referring to the ISO 55000, and how widespread is the use of it by design institutes?
That's a good question. In our experience, there is unless we can influence the requirements definition process, usually ISO 55000 is not mentioned. So it's there is still a work of awareness to be done on this standard, we believe. But it's getting traction actually, and what is interesting is when we engage with the customer in all infrastructure projects on the topic of ISO 55000, we see a good response. This is an interesting standard. It will help us to structure our approach in organization where sometimes the digitalization project comes in a pre-packaged way by the IT department that is maybe not totally in touch with the operation and management needs. And the introduction of the standards help to clarify this point. So I believe that this will become used actually more and more. And definitely the awareness is growing, but as of today, the share is still small.
Okay, thank you, Guillaume. Maybe Matthias or Jason, if you have anything to add on this. Okay, then I think I should also hold this when I speak, so that people can hear the questions well enough. The second question is maybe also to Guillaume, is about which percentage of utilities have full and independent economy and operates on full pricing based on the true cost of ownership. that allows for long-term decision-making and sustainable financing based on their own revenue streams, instead of having investments from external grants, for example, from government grants.
Well, we are not operating this facility ourselves, so we have I would say partial and partial knowledge of this situation. What we see, however, is that the adoption of this technology has a clear, illustrates and embodies a clear economic performance agenda. And clearly, when we see how the projects are conducted, profitability is one of the key driver. Maybe not the first driver, as I highlighted, is not the one creating the project, but very quickly this kicks into the equation. So again, I don't have clear values and clear numbers here, but definitely we see the trend, and sooner or later that will be an imperative.
Maybe Jason, because interesting enough, in the cases you shared, the Italian one, Mosaic, you mentioned the client's feedback. It's really focusing on the client is satisfied with the economic incentives that it received by having the efficiency improved, the capacity improved. So from the client's point of view, the clients are definitely looking at economic incentives, are looking at the economic side. What's your intake on that?
Yeah, so to be honest, this is very difficult to say exact figures for the improvement of the percentage. But generally speaking, first of all, case by case. Yeah, for the invoice plant or for the existing plant, the different process and the different capacity, the percentage is different. The second one, if we use the smart water systems, just for some rough estimation, for the OPEX, we can reduce or save about the 20 to 30% for the OPEX. For the CAPEX saving is about around 15% around here. Yeah. So this is just something rough information. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, my next question is more for Matthias, because yes, sorry, always forget the speakers. Guillaume has introduced a lot about the smart O&M, and then Jason gave two successful cases of Kruger's system in application. And you mentioned also about software protection, especially smart algorithms. Do you want to elaborate a bit more on this? Because you mentioned that it's unique and also it's also complicated. For example, Kruger has already more than 60 algorithms in application, in use. So Matthias, do you have more to share on this?
Yes. Well, algorithms themselves, they cannot be protected because they are purely mathematical equations, they are purely intellectual, so they cannot be protected. However, they can be protected when they are integrated, for example, in a software. And this is where we fall on what type of protection we will have. If we protect the software only as copyright, then the protection is much more simple in the way of only should be done by registration. But if the software is integrated in a much more complex process that also involves the use of hardware, then here we may be in a scenario in which we can protect the software as utilization pattern, and then the algorithm will be integrated in the invention pattern. But again, we have to check it case by case. It's very complex. Normally, the rule is that they cannot be protected by invention pattern. They can only be protected as software, and that the algorithm will be protected as long as can be part of the software.
Okay. I don't know, Guillaume or Jason, you have anything to add on this, or you have any experiences to share?
Yeah. It's
On that topic is that yes, we inevitably in the market we will meet copycats. We discussed a little bit before the discussion. Mostly the copycats would be for us actually on the marketing side, less on the technological side, because I guess that's what's easiest to reproduce and to emulate. As we are in, I would say, very interested in pushing some concept to the market, that's not totally bad actually. It helps to raise awareness on key concepts and facilitate the discussion with a number of stakeholders, so that's okay. And the other side is more, when it's more technical, well, of course we secure the IP here in China for all our products, and I think this is the safe thing to do, right?
For this issue, the same feeling from the Veolia and the Cleaver. Because we want to introduce the upgrade performance into Chinese market. To be honest, the legal system is very complicated related with the dispute in China. So we must rely on the professional legal consulting. Maybe some lawyer firm can help us. Anyway, this is a complicated issue. We must rely on some professional people, not just technical issue.
Yeah, on that I could add that for those companies that are involved in the research and development process, they have to have good protocols and good practices that involves the legal department working together with the technical guys, because they need to be aware of what is going to be developed, what technologies are going to be in the future, and protect them in the proper time and in the proper way. So it's a combined work that has to be done.
Thank you very much for all your inputs. I take this chance to also collect any questions from the audience we have offline. If there is any, please raise your hand. I'll pass you the microphone. And also to our online participants, if you have any questions, please post on the webinar chat, and I will notice these questions and address the speakers. At the same time, maybe I have one more question. Since Jason, you have mentioned that you are, based on your experience of Veolia's many years presence in China, you also share the views on how to eventually apply the upgrade systems in the Chinese markets. You also mentioned about some challenges facing the European markets. For example, clients you shared from Lithuania, from Italy, the challenges facing are already different, and the challenges facing the wastewater treatment plants, new ones and both existing ones in China, are also going to be different. How do you see this? I connect this question also to Guillaume's presentation on breaking up the silos, on what digitalization will bring to the sector, but also on the challenges, the untapped opportunities, for example, the organizational changes that should be considered as a challenge. So this question I pose to both of you. Maybe Jason, you could start elaborating your views on the challenges facing the markets, the differences, and then Guillaume, eventually you can probably elaborate further how you see the silos to be break down by the application of digitalization.
Okay, thank you. So for the business and technical development in China, we always facing the challenges. For example, when we introduced our smart water systems in China, the first one I already mentioned, the legal challenges. Yeah, if we use some cloud for the Amazon, yeah, we also get some legal problems. So we must do some flexible solution. Yeah, the first one. The second one, there is some big difference for the drinking water quality guarantee between the European country and the Chinese country. In Chinese, the drinking water quality is very, very strict. Is very stringent than the European wastewater plants. I think the two gentlemen knew this as well. Especially for our drinking water quality guarantee should be based on the support standard, not the daily average. Even for the Chinese national regulation, they are mentioned that just based on some of the daily average sample, but actually the local environmental authority just check you and challenge you based on the support sample. So how to guarantee the drinking water quality? This is the big difference. So for the third one is if we want to introduce some new idea, new technology, new systems into Chinese market, you must be much patient. You can't finish all did it well just 1 year. Maybe you need to spend the 2 years or 3 years. At the beginning, you must take some much risk and start for a very small reference, and then accumulate some experience, and then you can do it well for the real Chinese market.
I see two different approaches when we compare Europe and China in terms of digitalization for operation and maintenance in particular. Digitalization in Europe will be understood as a way to optimize, optimize existing operation often as they are with minimum change on how they operate, and we will use mature or let's say organizations that are already formed, and there will be this will to digitalize them. In what we see here in China is digitalization with the goal to structure the operation and to structure maintenance, and to, as I mentioned, to have operator on the very large scale at a very fast pace to imprint a structure on their organization and to define how they're going to work. So the goals are considered a little bit different. And we can see this when we're talking about the tenders, for example. If I do a little bit of caricature here, typical tender made by a European company will be very, very specific, very detailed on many aspects, because they expect they see the suppliers like us really as IT supplier providing a solution and the specified solution. Our Chinese customer, they see us as consultants with some technological background, and we define the tender are much more broad and open, and we have room inside these tenders to define a certain approach to water operation and maintenance, which we do, and that's how we differentiate here. Because we propose a solution that is not just talk to us and we will digitalize whatever you want. That would be like, we have a plan that's around in our case ISO 55000, and that should help you to meet your key business goals. And here is how. And yes, there is a solution inside the package, and that's how it's going to be implemented. So the discussion is not structured in the same way. And we actually met challenges when we're talking to MNCs that are operating through JVs here. So that presents two teams that are discussing the two concepts in the same time. And that has been one of the challenges where a supplier must rely on a lot of agility to address those parts in this market.
Thank you. Do we have any questions maybe from the audience? I see also quite some field experts, and maybe also from excavators from Aquatech. You are also welcome very much to join the discussion. Any of the points that have been shared by any of the speakers, if you want to make comments. No? Okay, since we're also close to time limits, time constraints, I would also invite maybe everyone to have last round of sharing, either on outlooks or the biggest challenges facing the sector from your point of view. If you could share from your businesses, for example, your outlook on the hub grid system in China, or how you see digitalization of the water sector, what are the biggest challenges facing the sector?
Okay, thank you. So the first thing is, I think as a Chinese people, I think the Chinese market is very huge. So it is value for the Veolia or the Kruger company involved into the smart water systems business marketing in China. So the second one, we must face more and more the competitors, local competitors, the stronger competitors. They have the low price, the cheap price, they have more the flexible solutions. But on the other hand, so far, for our local companies, local competitors, they are also very experienced for the smart water systems. So we must catch the precious time, maybe just about 2 or 3 years to develop our advanced technology into the Chinese market. So anyway, for the future, if the local companies, local friends, they have some strong technology, have the very good solutions, is also good for us because they are the strengths, they are good technologies. We must be back and back. So this is also good for us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Yes.
From the IP perspective, the main challenge is to learn how to get ready, how to know what to protect, how to protect it, and do it in the most efficient way. It's important to have the collaboration, assistance, and help of local attorneys and institutions like the China IPsme Helpline. So if there is any inquiry, please, the companies feel free to contact us.
I think that makes sense because what I see in the coming years is more and more competition with the result of some strategic choices that are made by the main water operator. We see, as far as I could tell, we see the big industrial one trying to get strong on digital offer, and but they are challenged heavily, I would say, on Chinese companies that are doing better and better in terms of operation, and that raises interesting questions. And I think that now with the ambition to be able to compete on the international stage, that provide also opportunities for both Chinese and European companies and suppliers of technology, suppliers of different part of what will become the offer of these companies. And yeah, interesting time, but challenging as well.
Thank you, Guillaume, Matthias, and Jason. I suggest that from the offline audience here, we give them a big round of applause. Thank you all. I also take this chance to remind all the participants, online and offline, at the EUSME Center. We do collect also your valuable feedback. So if you could take a few minutes, scan the QR code on the screen or on your screen that you are viewing, and complete this questionnaire. This will really help us to increase the quality of our work. And this is the end of this seminar. However, this is not the end of the discussion. We are going to continue more webinars organized together with EUSME Center and CWP and our partners will be shared on our social medias for the second half of the year. So please stay tuned and stay in touch with us at the EUSME Center, also with the China Europe Water platform. Thank you very much. This is the end of the seminar.